This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East LA Music Stories. My guest today is Sal Rodriguez, um, drummer for many groups and many artists over the years, but most notably a drummer with Tierra and War. And he's been with War for 34 years, I believe. There's a lot of other artists he's worked with, but we'll talk about that later. But let's start by saying hello. Welcome, Sal. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. So, um, what got you involved in music in the first place? I think you said your dad was somewhat of a musician.
Yeah, how I got introduced to this incredible journey is my father and my godfather, they had a group, little conjunto group, you know, and so they play the rancheras, conjunto music. It wasn't Tex-Mex, it was more of the Mexican stuff, Jose Alfredo Jimenez, but they were doing their versions. So I would tag along as a little kid, man, like 9 years old, and I remember back then, man, and watching them dance and sing and just having fun, and drinking and I go, man, this looks like fun. It's like what makes these people dance and what makes these people, enjoy themselves? It's the music and the drums. I was watching my dad play drums, and self-taught musician. He wasn't you know, a schooled musician. Uh, so I was just watching people and just like, man, this looks like fun. So my dad had a drum set lying around. Uh, this is like in the mid '60s or late '60s. And my uncle, which was an incredible musician, my late uncle, he just passed away. He was a multi-talented, incredible musician. Played trumpets, bass, guitar, drums, and he was from Tijuana, and he was over the house, and he just started doing the snare drum. Like I go, wow, that's I want to do that. Then he would take me to the rehearsals because he had a little group playing with soul music and blues and stuff like that. He would take me to the rehearsals, and that's why I kind of started getting the bug. And so I just formed my own band after a while, man. I just started. When you're in junior high, they call it junior high, middle school now. We just, hey man, we formed a band with my peers, and we started playing songs, like Cream, Jimi Hendrix, and Buddy Miles and all that stuff. And Chicago barely came out, man. I was like, yeah, I was in heaven.
And you were in the San Fernando Valley at the time?
Yeah, I'm in San Fernando. I'm still in the San Fernando Valley. I was born in Tijuana, but I was raised here. My father brought us over, me and my sister, and when I was like 2 years old, and we moved over here to Pacoima or San Fernando. So I was raised out here, but I haven't been in Tijuana in about 40 years.
Uh,
'Cause my grandmother, everybody, my family, I mean, they're deceased now. My mother and father, my grandparents, and a lot of our relatives from back in the day. So that's how I got started. I mean, he's the one that really kind of like took me under his wing and kind of like, hey man, let's go to rehearsals. I'll take you here, blah blah blah. I just started observing, and so when my father worked in construction, and after a while, with the drinking and the construction and all this stuff, and he couldn't make it. My mom had put a pressure on him too, you know what I mean? Because my dad, he liked to entertain. And so so I started playing drums, taking his place. I was like 11 years old.
wow. Interesting you were in Pacoima because that's the home of Richie Valens.
Yes, Richie Valens is from this neighborhood, that's for sure. Yeah.
I was recently there and a friend took me to his childhood home and to this hall, like a VFW hall, where he used to play. It was a Saturday night and the place was still packed with Chicanos from our generation and a band from our generation kicking ass. And I thought, some things keep going, man.
Yeah. I just played there about a couple of weeks ago.
There you go.
But I'll get to that too, because I played there when I was around 11 years old.
Wow.
It's got a lot of history there, man.
So at 11, you were already taking your dad's place on some of the gigs on drums?
Yeah, I was 11 years old, and I can remember back then just going to his backyard parties, and then people, I'll be playing drums and people go, hey, mira ese muchachito, míralo, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't think nothing of it. But my thing was like, I want to be, I want to be like with Hendrix and, Cream. I want to play, I want to do that. But I was playing, and hey, I was getting like $20 a night. That's a lot of money back then for a kid.
So if you're talking Hendrix and Cream, it had to be around 1969-ish, late 60s, 68,
Hmm
68, 69.
Hendrix had just came out.
Yeah,
Cream, of course, you know what I mean?
yeah, big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. The Doors, of course, and
So at that time, as a kid, who were the groups or the musicians, English or Spanish language, that you were into?
well, of course. I mean, one of the first ones was when I bought my first album, I think it was Chicago Transit Authority, the first album, and Santana, of course, the first album. The second album hasn't come out yet. That was in '69, I think, or '70. If I can recall. But those groups that I was into I like the horn bands too, of course.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears, one of my all-time favorites.
I love that second album, man. Yeah, that was a masterpiece.
I went to go see him in the early days. That's one of my first concerts was Blood, Sweat, and Tears and the Fifth Dimension at the Universal Amphitheater,
Wow.
like 1991. And Bobby Colomby, Lou Soloff playing trumpet, and just the musicianship, man, it's like unbelievable. Stuff you hear on the radio, Lucretia McKeever, Heidi Ho, all that stuff, it's like, wow.
David Clayton Thomas and When I Die and all this.
David Clayton Thomas, man.
Spinning Wheel.
Yeah, we opened up for him a few times with David Clayton Thomas, so it was a pleasure seeing them. But then, of course, Grand Funk Railroad was a big
Ooh,
big one for me.
Mark Farner.
Mark Farn. I mean, the early Grand Funk on the Terry Knight era. Unfortunately, what happened with Terry Knight. But ever since the first album, all the way to E Pluribus Funk was that silver one, and man, that really turned me around because that's how I started learning how to sing.
Hmm.
Because I would mimic Mark Farner, not that I could sing like him.
Yeah,
When you're young, you just don't know. You just go for it,
yeah,
and you start singing the harmonies and stuff like that. But that early stuff that they had, man, it was unbelievable, man. It's
powerful.
just
So you
raw.
were pretty young, but I see behind you, you have a Beatles poster.
Yeah.
So the Beatles came out in like 64 in the States, big time. You must have been 5 years old, but were you influenced by them in the 60s?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I had you know, I- my first Beatle album that I could buy was Rubber Soul.
Ooh, that's where it all started.
That's when
Sophisticated part.
that's when he started, writing
Oh, I
this,
know.
really getting good, you know what I mean? And that's when I just got hooked. I mean,
Perfect.
I really got hooked with
My
Rubber.
favorite is Revolver, which came out right after that.
Oh yeah,
Revolver, my
yeah.
God.
Oh yeah. Those guys,
Excellent.
man, to me they're the best.
Yeah, and right to this day, they're the biggest of all time. They're more popular right now than ever. I'm loving it.
Amazing, yeah.
And the younger generations are discovering and going, holy shit,
Yeah.
so much better than what's been going on for their
But
generation.
not only the songwriting, but just the
Oh,
production, how everything
oh,
was done, the
singing,
backmasking, this, that, the orchestra, just
innovations, all the renovations, and the diversity. They did everything from Helter Skelter to Michelle, I mean, it's just
yeah,
uh,
unbelievable.
Strawberry Fields. Yeah, they're still my favorite to this day.
Yeah.
That's good to hear that you liked him too. And Ringo, right? He's a very underappreciated drummer because to me, I mean, he
Ringo
was
to me,
obviously the perfect drummer for the Beatles.
right. I mean, to me, if it wasn't for Ringo, the Beatles wouldn't be the same.
Yeah,
Of course,
no, there's
like
no doubt.
everybody had their recipe to put in there. Same thing like with War. Every musician had their recipe to add, to that great music. But Ringo, man, he's definitely one of the most underrated drummers of all time. Because when you ask drummers nowadays, like who's the drummer? Oh, okay, Dave Weckl. They got these guys. They got a lot of these new young cats coming out. Steve Gadd, of course, he's one of my all-time favorites. But Ringo, man, the stuff that he played and the stuff that he didn't play too, the stuff
He's,
that he
he's
laid
he served the song, and just think of the way like he played on Day in the Life
out. Oh yeah.
or Rain, or
Uh-huh.
some of those things were just incredible and perfect. And he would do things. Sometimes he'd do a tom-tom thing, like on Hello Goodbye. It's just a
Yeah,
tom-tom. There's no snare hits or on Come Together,
yeah.
just innovative.
Because he was
Perfect.
left-handed, so he was
Yeah.
playing weird, different. You know what I
Backwards. Yeah.
mean?
No, I
Yeah,
love
I love
Ringo's.
Ringo. I got to see his group, the All-Star group, maybe about 15 years ago, but I never got to meet him because he doesn't like to really stick
Yeah.
around,
Right,
meeting.
right, right. I've seen his band three times. I think the first time was around 2012 or something. But then I saw him last year twice. I saw him in Temecula and in Tucson, Arizona. And man, I mean, he still plays great. He still sings great. He looks great. He's moving around. He's 84, I think.
Yeah,
And he's got a great band. And, Steve Lukather of Toto and all these guys. And each one does their hits.
great.
The
And
guy
that,
from,
yeah.
yeah.
I seen it when I seen him. He was Sheila E. was playing drums
Oh,
with him.
okay. I remember that.
That was maybe about 15 years ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was great. Mark Farner, I know he was in there for a while from Grand Funk. Mark Farner,
Oh, he was. Him
yeah,
too.
he was in the All-Star band.
Hmm.
But yeah, and, the Beatles, coming back to the Beatles, man, still to this day, such a great influence, man, because you can
Yeah.
put any Beatles song on there, you can like, wow,
Oh, yes. It
way ahead of
still
me.
sounds hip and together and
Oh yeah,
timeless. I
yeah,
just got back from Liverpool. I just played there a few gigs and yeah, I did a little video travel log, like here I am in front of Strawberry Fields and here I am at Penny Lane. Just kind of like to share the trip with people. So
wow,
I just put that up. I'll send you the link if you like.
fantastic. Yeah, definitely
But
want to see that.
yeah, Beatles still love them. Love them more. I love them more now than ever. They're just, it's just in my
Yeah,
DNA. But anyway,
yeah. The influence. We talk about the influences, right?
yeah. So what other drummer influences?
Chicago was a big, big one for me too, and of course, Tower of Power.
Oh my God.
When Tower Power came out, the East Bay Grease with that little black album with the hat and all that stuff, the
Yeah.
map of Oakland. I used to carry that album. There was a couple albums I used to carry: the Chicago Transit Authority, Jimi Hendrix, Band of Gypsies, and Chicago. And Grand Funk, four bands. I was like, then I would carry these albums to school just to show them off. Hey,
Yeah.
wow, you got that? Yeah, I do, man. Can I borrow it? No,
No way. I'll never
you
get it back.
can't. But I used to run home, Mark. I used to run home to practice because I couldn't wait. My dad built me a room back there, like a 16 by 16 out of scratch material. We found in the railroad place out there. You know what I mean? It's a big old warehouse full of just lumber. You just use lumber. So he built me a room and I would go home and practice and I would just run home and I couldn't wait to put on those records,
And you'd
man.
play along with the records
I
and
play along with the record because that's all we had. There was
that's how
nothing.
you learned, right? There were no YouTube
Yeah,
videos. I mean, we
you
learned
could
things
be on
off the
there,
record.
then when you wore out that column 45s, right? You put a little nickel on it, to
Yeah, right.
when you had a quarter on there, it's time for a new record or a
That's
needle.
funny. Yeah,
But
but
those are
that's how
my
we learn, right? Off records. All of us, we learn our guitar leads from
yeah.
records. And
I mean,
nowadays, you have tablature and YouTube tutorials. We didn't have any of that.
I got there's so much stuff available. That's why see so much young kids out there, 4 or 5 years old, already like monsters.
Yeah.
Oh, monsters, kids not far.
Oh, yeah, the monsters. Now,
Yeah.
what about so what was the first band you formed, your own band? How old were you and what was it?
We had the local bands here. We had a group called the Progressives, and I was the youngest cat. I couldn't even drive. I was like 14 years old. We play all the halls around, you know what I mean? Sometimes with the Midnighters or different brands from LA that would come and would be like the opening bands and stuff. And but those were I was like 14, 15 years old. These guys already they had cars and stuff, early 20s. And I was trying to always hitch a ride and I couldn't, you know what I mean? And pick me up. And my dad wouldn't take me, he worked construction. Yeah, tú quieres la banda, you play. But but actually forming my first band was a band called Skid Row.
Oh,
Was
you beat that other band to it, huh?
Yeah, yeah. This was like in the 70s.
Hmm.
And but it was like fusion because a lot of fusion was happening too, back then. the early stuff. We call it fusion, but it's different. It's not like the fusion today. Like it was more melodic stuff. You know what I mean? Of course, the early Billy Cobham Dreams and
Oh, yeah.
that stuff. You know what I mean? And Yes, they came. Remember Yes and
The progressive groups.
progressive rock, and it's like wow, man, it's just unbelievable. But yeah, that kind of stuff then influenced me to start my own group. But we would play. We didn't really have like a vocalist. There were long jams. Like Carlos Santana, when he first started his band, they were jamming for a long time. And I read his memoir, and he's telling me about his dad. His dad was telling me, "Hey, why don't you play songs? He was a violinist, he
Yeah,
started
right. Mariachi.
mariachi, but that got me into starting my group with Eastside Connection, and I'm going back with Skid Row, with two black brothers from Pacoima.
Mhm.
So it was me and them two, and they were phenomenal players, man. Unbelievable. And I'm going to go forward too, because for a minute, then we'll come back. And
Yeah.
Jeff Lee, that was with the Death Row, he actually named the group. Rest his soul, he passed away, but he was an Eastside Connection too. I brought him in, but they were like, they're effortlessly. He's using Joe Pass and all this stuff, man. So I introduced them to like the Tower Power, rock and roll, and stuff like that. To go see, Chicago at the Greek Theater, and we go see Tower Power back in like 1970, 71. Their mother took us over there because we were kids, right? And you can go in there because they sell food as long as you're with an adult. So man, I would go see these groups, man, and take us over there, man. My jaw, power, man. It's like one of these days, man. I'm gonna be up on that stage, or I'm gonna be this, and go into the forum, but that really, you know, got me, motivated to practice and just keep going, man. Just
Did
keep
you
going.
take a lot of formal lessons too, private or other
You know
tutor?
what? That's the thing that I tried that one time, but I didn't have the patience. I just practiced my butt off, man, And
Main
back then I
thing.
didn't have the money to pay for lessons either, you know.
Well, it's like, Ringo didn't never had any lessons. Not only that, he never practiced. Have you ever heard his interviews? He goes, practice? No, I just played all the time. And he hated practice.
Yeah.
And look what
Well,
he
that's where
did.
that's where I'm at now. I mean, it's like I don't practice anymore. It's like, why?
Practice.
You practice? I go, what? Yeah, but I did a lot of practicing back in my early days. I mean, I would lock myself in there and I would do like 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours sometimes. Of course, not all in a row, but you practice 2 or 3 hours,
Yeah.
break, come back. Man, I did that for years, and that's why I cut my teeth on those records and stuff like that.
Did you ever get into Steely Dan heavy?
Not too much Steely Dan, man. I was more, uh,
But interesting because they used the best drummers, right? Ed Green and Jeff
I know,
Porcaro. And,
Ed Green.
Ed Jeff Porcaro, Steve Gadd, all the best drummers played with them, right?
Bernard Purdy,
Yeah. Oh,
Elmer.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ed Green, man, he did that stuff for Barry White.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's Ed Green, man, playing
I
all
didn't
that.
know that.
Unbelievable, man. The pocket white dude, man, nailing it. I did a session with him one time playing percussion. I was just before cameras, I'm going, oh man, I should have brought my camera. But anyway, Ed Green, but he was definitely, I don't know if he's still around, but
I think so.
yeah. But those are the big influences, man. Grand Funk was huge. I went to go see him in the early days at the Forum, and of course, Yes was a big part of my life. I wasn't too much of a Rush guy. I just didn't, that wasn't my thing.
You didn't get into Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
Christian Lake Apartment, no, I knew about them, but I never like bought their albums and stuff like that.
Oh, yes,
But
was incredible.
yes, yeah, to me, this like first time I went to go see him at the Forum, that they had the Fragile album, Bill Bruford was still with them, the drummer, and Rick Wakeman and Chris
Yeah,
Squire.
right.
Yeah,
Lake and
those songs
Palmer.
are like 10 minutes long, man. Back then you could sneak a bunch of joints in your pocket, nobody checks you.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
smoke,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
smoking, like I tell my friends, like, hey, what song is this, man? I go, I don't know, man, but it's bad here.
And everybody's got a contact tie because it's
And then somebody taps you on the shoulder, you look back, somebody's handing you a joint, it's like, oh, okay, cool, man, you know. It's
that
all
was way back, huh, you're talking about.
in the form, man. I saw my first concert was actually Black Sabbath.
Mm.
And I think it's Poco Harum or Black Arkansas, one of those bands that were opening up. But when I first walked in there, man, first concert at the Forum, smoke, smell the pot, the vibe, the cool, the sound. It's like,
Took a
wow.
long time for pot to be legal, a long time. I never thought I'd
Took
see
me a
it.
long time. Now when I quit smoking, now it's legal.
Yeah, now you can walk into a supermart and buy
Yeah, it gives,
edibles, whatever you
you can
want.
have it delivered too, man.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Yes, sir.
So cool. So you had that group and that first group, Skid Row, you just did some parties and little
Yeah, we would
gigs.
do backyard parties. Of course, we never got paid for that stuff because we just wanted an audience, you know.
Right.
And but it was just progressive rock. And Rick, as a matter of fact, Ricky Lee Jones came back to. She knew a friend that was looking for a band. She came back to my parents' house in the back in that tiny room before she got famous. Ricky Lee Jones, and we were too progressive for her. She's a blues lady, you know what I mean?
Right.
My friend brought her. Got here, these guys. She liked this, but she says, "You guys are too advanced for me. Like, I don't like that kind of music."
Now, what band was that she heard? Was
That was Death Row.
is that the name of your band?
That was it. Yeah, that was the name of the band, Death Row.
Okay. So that was after Skid Row, you got into Death Row.
No, no, no. It was actually Death Row was the name of the group.
Oh, you said Skid Row, I think the
That's
first.
it, Skid Row. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Were you still really, really young when she heard you? Like,
Yeah, yeah, we were teenagers, you know. When actually, that was like when I got back from tour with Little Joe. We'll go there too. But yeah, no, before I took off, that was in the late '70s. Yeah, in the late '70s, with Ricky Lee Jones. She came to the house, and what I never seen her since. She became famous now, you know.
so was the first solid kind of band, was that Eastside Connection that you got into, or what would you say?
No, well, here in California, yeah, because as soon as I left high school, you know, I really started getting into the big band music and about a Buddy Rich drum set, you know what I mean? I was really
Mm-hmm.
into the big band. And I love the horns. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, I guess. Cold Blood was one of my favorites too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Sandy McKee is an unbelievable drummer. He passed away también, you know, but it was that era with the big band that I really liked with the horns and
Was there a band before Eastside
oh,
Connection?
Connection, yeah. Okay, so what happened with Eastside Connection is a local group from Los Angeles that we recorded um under Rampart Records.
This was early 70s, right?
Yeah, late 70s.
Late 70s, okay.
70s, yeah. So what happened there is when I got out of high school, when I was in high school, I was playing at a little place called the Acapulco, around San Fernando Road.
Mm-hmm.
Used to have session players like Gary Herbig, and I forgot Tommy Tedesco on trumpet. And these guys would do sessions, you know, and we'd play Little Joe material, and these guys we're getting $30 a night. These guys were doing major records, you know, they just like to come and hang and drink and just sight read, you know, to them was they were just reading, having a good time. So they turned over, we were doing Little Joe material and you know, cumbias and stuff like that. And they turned around and said, hey man, Little Joe's in town and he's looking for a drummer. I think he's gonna come down tonight, check you out. I go, really? Okay. So he came and he liked what he heard and he comes up to me, he goes, hey, I need a drummer. You want to go on the road? And I looked at my band leader. The band leader looked at me and he goes, I would do it. I go, okay, I'm in. So I started touring with him. He had two houses up here because he was trying to break Tejano music. Little John La Familia was, if you don't know
Right,
who he is, he's a Tex-Mex, he's like the Tex-Mex godfather of Tex-Mex
right.
music.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his 80s now and he's still around.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, you know, he was trying to break Tejano music over here in
Now, was this before Eastside Connection or?
Eastside Connection. Then as soon as the high school thing, I graduated from high school. Well, I didn't graduate, but I finished high school. So Little Joe came and then he recruited me to go on tour with him. And so he stayed around for California for a bit, you know. but he just ran out of money. He had two houses, one for his family, one for the band.
So how old were you when you went on tour with Little Joe?
I was like 18, 18.
So what was that like for you being that young and being on the road?
Oh man, it was a trip, man. Because when you're young, dumb, full of fun, nothing stops you. You don't say no. Yes, yeah, okay. You want to take this, smoke this, okay. you know. But yeah. So he was here for a while, and then he went back to Texas because he ran out of money. Little Joe and Chicano music wasn't making it. So I thought that was over. And then next, get a phone call, and Little Joe calls me up. A couple months later, he goes, "Hey, I need a drummer. Uh, you want to come play drums?" I go, "When?" He goes, "Like now. I need a drummer." Well, how am I going to get there? He goes, "Well, Sal's going to pick you up. There's another Sal plays sax in San Diego." He goes, "I
Mhm.
already called him up. He's coming. He can come by and pick you up. You drive to Texas. Where am I going to stay? You can stay with me. There's a den here. You guys can stay until you get your place." Fine. So got in the car, drove all to Texas. That lasted about 3 years in Texas,
Wow.
but playing all over the place. I remember playing my first Tejano Super Dance show with Jimmy Edwards, Latin Breed, and Ruben Ramos. Super Dance #3 at the San Antonio Convention Center. First time I seen so many Tejanos. It's like they were like line dancing, but Tejano music. It was all clockwise. And I was just blown away, man, by the musicianship too in Texas. So the style was different.
Yeah, yeah.
Style. I mean, it was more sophisticated, more laid back, more groove oriented. It was slower than over here. The corridos, man, real fast, and everybody's getting the line and breaking,
Crashing into each other.
crashing into each other. Over there, man, it was like, wow, this is crazy, man. But with Little Joe, man, I learned a lot from Joe. And he took me under his wing, so I consider him today as my Texas godfather.
Mhm.
Being 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and my first touring gig, and it was at Temple, Texas. If
Oh
anybody
yeah.
knows
Sure, sure.
Texas, Temple is like an hour north of Austin, Texas, and then like 2.5 hours from Dallas, and like 3.5 hours from Houston. So it's like
What about
right
San Antonio?
San Antonio. Yeah, we played there many times,
Was
but
it close to San Antonio or?
yeah, it was about maybe I would say 2 hours, two couple
That,
hours.
that was a big hub of Tejano music, and
I
you
don't
had
mean,
Sonny Osuna and Renee
yeah.
Reales, and
As a matter of fact, um, I just recorded 2 songs with Renee.
oh, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, cool.
Angelito, and
He's still got a voice, man.
still does, man.
He's like
But
85, 87 or something.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, with Little Joe, that lasted about 3 years. When you're young, man, back then there's no internet, there's nothing. We don't have cell phones,
There was
right?
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in a small town in Temple with Joe. Finally, he said, "Man, you guys got to get your own place." You know, but we're young, and we still smoke pot in the den and stuff. And he goes, "Man, you can't do that. It's my house, and you guys got to get your own." So we rented a house for like $175, 5-bedroom house back then.
Yeah.
But we shared it with the other musicians, from California. But yeah, so that was interesting. So when that ended, when Little Joe ended, well, for me, because I really got homesick after 3 years. The music, you had to wait because, like I said, it's no Wi-Fi. We didn't know they were like 10 years behind, you know. And I was into Billy Cobham, all that stuff, man. Headhunters, and so I just got homesick. So I just, I came back to California, and that's when I called Hector because Hector was playing in that band when I was with Little Joe. Hector
Hector
Gonzalez,
Gonzalez,
and
right?
he was the bass player. He started a group called Eastside Connection with all these incredible musicians, right? Brandon Fields, Sal Cracchiolo, and Harry Scorzo on violin, and incredible band. We're doing originals too, all these arrangements. But that's when I came back and I called Hector. That, "Hey man, looking for a gig." You know what I mean? I don't. So he he accepted the offer for me to come in his group, you know. He extended that offer, that I said, yeah, man, I want to join the band, you know what I mean? So I'm calling you. So we toured for maybe about 3 or 4 years with Hector, maybe 3 years. So we went all over the place, Canada, and I was doing all the clubs. And back then we played six nights a week, 5 sets a night, 4 or 5 sets. Think nothing of it. Every night was a party.
And they made an album. You were on that album, right?
Yeah, it's called Brand Spanking New. But we did singles, but with this full album, and it was under Eddie Davis
Yeah, Rampart.
and Rampart Records. And Eddie Davis was producing it and paying for the recordings and stuff. I think that music was too advanced because it was at the end of the disco era when they wanted the hits. They wanted the thump on the floor, boom,
Four on
boom,
the floor.
on the floor, and they'll bring the records. Hey, sound like this guy, that's not me, you know. But I was too young, man. But well, we tried it. They got some stuff that charted, but more in Europe and stuff, and but nothing radio friendly here.
Mhm.
But after Eastside Connection, man, it's I left the group. I just needed a change. I needed another change.
What happened after Eastside Connection?
Yeah. So what happened after Eastside Connection is actually I had a spiritual awakening, right?
Did mushrooms or LSD have anything to do with
Oh,
it?
man, nothing to do with it.
Marijuana, at least?
Nothing. I
Okay.
mean, I was doing all that stuff, but then, yeah, I mean, as you call the in Christianity, born again experience, right?
Yes.
At that age, and I
So you
had,
gained enlightenment. How did it happen?
yeah, I just needed a change, man. And then one day, I just some friends of mine that were they call them Jesus freaks back in the
Right,
day,
right. Oh, I see.
like,
Mhm.
man, I need answers. What's going on? It's like something's missing. You know what I mean? And so I called my friend up and he said, yeah, come on over. I'll answer your questions. And he answered. I went to church that night and boom, man, I got slain in the spirit. I was
Wow.
on the ground, man. I was like crying. And it's like, what's going on? And I prayed really hard one time. I was in the shower room. I was still living with my parents, and I prayed so hard for God to come into my life to change me. And I felt this thing like this anointing. And man, I started crying. I got out of the shower, go, man, what happened? And I told my mother that time she was in the kitchen. I said, Mom, I don't know. I just found God. I don't know what happened. She goes, oh, good, mijo, good.
Good, mijo.
So
Yeah. Dinner's ready.
yeah, I left Eastside because we were raised Catholic.
Yeah.
I left Eastside Connection, and Hector wasn't really happy about that. But I told him, look, I'll stick around till you find a drummer. I just needed to change, man. And then so with Hector, that messed up that relationship for a long time.
Hey, once you hit that, to this day, are you sort of the same
I'm
spiritual?
back. I'm back walking with the Lord now.
So sometimes you left on it.
Yeah, I did the prodigal son thing,
Mhm.
for many, many years. Um, but I was really, really involved in the church. That's all I did. I still live with my parents. Wasn't married, didn't have any kids, early 20s. And we were evangelists. We were like go to Hawaii, we would go to San Francisco, and our pastor was a guitar player. He played rock and roll guitar,
Wow.
really loud rock and roll guitar in church, original stuff. It wasn't the stuff they have today, like the Hill songs and all that stuff. It was in the era of the Jesus movement,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Chuck Smith and all that stuff, and Maranatha Records, and so that caught my interest. You know what I mean? So like, wow, I didn't even know there's this kind of music there. But I did that for about 3 years, and I got discouraged. Unfortunately, in the church, you start growing and you see what's happening. You know what I mean?
Because a lot of times the churches themselves are a little corrupt, or there are humans that are not so good,
And we got to understand that, hey, they're people just like, the
mortals.
yeah, they sin, they drop, they do all that stuff too. And so what happened is I just got discouraged. I didn't um like not believe. I just didn't want to be in a called institution church
Right.
setting. Yeah, I couldn't do that anymore. So I left that for a long time, and what happened with me is I started playing with other groups and started, they said I couldn't play secular music and be in the church. And I go
The
like,
devil's music.
so I quit and I started working as a mechanic. I went to mechanic school and I learned how to do brakes, tune-ups back then. And I was
Wow.
doing that and I did that for about a year, man. I was making like $175 a week, right? And I go, man, I was making that in one night, a weekend,
Having fun.
having fun, man. Just 4 hours instead of 8 hours a day. And then I would listen to the radio and go like, man, I'm kind of missing those days, like. So when they told me I couldn't do that, and I said, and then what happened after that? When they told me I couldn't do that, the pastor takes off with the secretary and the money.
Of course.
"Oops, there you go. I'm done." But that was a big lesson, learning experience for me, man, and that opened up my eyes to reality, to check things out, but I learned so much on that period of time, the spiritual parts of human of mankind, you know what I mean? Our connection, our own personal connection with God, as we say, whoever our God is. But so doing that, I left, and then I had some Christian bands that I was working with, but you don't make any money. It's all going for the church here and there. So great. But I need to put gas in the car. I need to do this. I need so I started coming back and I started working again, with other local groups. But that's when I joined Eastside Connection. We're coming back, but when all that stuff happened. So both Eastside, the church, all that stuff, and man, that's when I was working this little place called 3100 Club in Lincoln Heights, little corner.
Oh.
And Steve used to live down the street, Steve Salas. And they would come in once in a while. We didn't have a stage, we had played behind the pool table. We do the 50s music and all that stuff, right? And people they were in their 40s and 50s. And I go, man, these people are old. I was in my early 20s. I go, man, they're old, man.
Now to us, they're kids. I
Yeah,
mean,
they go, hey, Papa, what's up, man? What's going on? So that's what we're playing there, and that's where I got to meet Rudy when Steve he walked in, and I
oh.
go, wow, that's Steve Salas. Well, that's Rudy. So I told him, hey, man, if you ever need a drummer to, I'm available. So finally, I got this phone call. Well, I'm going to back up a little bit. Before that happened, I got a call. I was at the Baked Potato. I was standing.
Oh, I used to go there.
Right? I was standing in line and I had a jacket of like a drum jacket or something. This guy goes, hey, are you a drummer? He goes, yeah, I'm a drummer, play percussion, drums. And he goes, hey man, Jose Feliciano's looking for a percussionist. I go, yes. I go, okay. Oh, here's my number. Call me. They call me, I auditioned, and they liked what they heard. So I went on tour with Jose Feliciano.
I mean, talk about right place at the right time,
Yeah, I know. And my first gig was a Grand Ole Opry, the old one, right?
huh? Wow.
Yeah, and
Ryman Auditorium.
yeah, it was incredible, man. And we did Viña del Mar, in Chile, the big super festival over there. But little Joe, I mean, Jose Feliciano, he had moved because I don't know, he's the earthquakes or something like that, or he moved out of state and he's got a whole new band and stuff. So that was with that. Then it's like, okay, well, now I'm out of a gig. So I'm working at the 3100 Club and playing, what, $80 a night or $75, for 3 nights. Uh, every night was $75 being behind the pool table. So I get a call from Rudy Salas and he goes, hey man, I need a sub because Phil Medaya was the guy that played in all the city nights and the Carnegie Hall lineup, right? And together and all that stuff. He goes, yeah, he can't make certain gigs. And so, okay, man, I bought those records, man. And I just played them over and over and over and over and over. That's all I heard. So when I did the show, they really liked what they heard because I knew the material. So finally, they call me back. Rudy says, hey, man, a couple of years go by. It says, Phil quit the group. He goes, you want to audition for the band? You want to come, yeah, sure. I already knew the material. So that's when I went to the rehearsal, I knew the material. They said, great. you're in. And back then it was still Bobby Navarrete, Bobby Loya, Andre Baeza was original conguero. He was with El Chicano first,
Right,
right?
right.
Joey Guerra, Steve Folomir, Steve Salas, and Rudy, Salas. I called the Hall lineup who
Mhm.
had left, and I just stepped in, man. To me, it was like I was so prideful, man. It's like, wow, this is cool, man. You don't think you're going to be a part of Chicano history, you know what I mean? As you say it, right? You're part
Mhm.
of the movement. You just didn't think of it. You're just like, wow, this is fantastic. So I started touring with them, man, and little by little, the band started leaving. Bobby quit, this guy quit, blah blah blah, and it was just a turning point for the band.
So you were there with
I
them
was there for
from
5 years.
85 to 90,
I was
roughly.
there 85 to 90, and with these guys, um, it was great. We got to go to Japan. We went a lot of places, and
And you made the New Beginnings album.
we did a record. We did
Yeah.
some stuff in New Beginnings, and like you were mentioning, some of the songs that were on
Yeah,
there
let's talk about them. So I'm going to show the
with
album cover
Tierra.
on this. I'm going to show the album cover on the screen right now.
Mhm.
Um, but I got into this album. As far as you know, I knew Tierra from the beginning because when they formed in 1972,
Mhm.
we shared the same manager, Art Brambilla, who
Oh
was
yeah.
their uncle, Rudy and Steve's uncle. And so I was there when they were doing their first album and when they were being born as Tierra. And I loved their first album called Tierra, with what's the drummer's name again? I never can think of
Kenny
Kenny
Roman.
Roman.
I think they were called a six pack before then.
Yeah, they were six pack first, but it was slightly different guys. But Kenny Roman, and I always thought of him as the Keith Moon of East LA because he was so
Yeah,
aggressive.
yeah, that's Kenny Roman. He was really real hyper.
So that made that album so alive and so it was just kick-ass. It had Latin, but it was really rock and roll too, and
Yeah.
real ballsy. And you had David Torres on
And
keyboard and
not
trumpet.
only even the sound, man. The sound
Oh,
was great.
yeah. So that was a killer album that I love to this day. And I think this is my second favorite Theater album. I really got into this one. This came out in 1989. And okay, let's just go through the songs here. Come As You Are. Come As You Are. Real
I even
polished,
forgot
kind of
about
cool.
that album until you
Yeah.
mentioned it.
But anyway, it was a good song. I liked it. And let's see what else here. Mean Streak. I'm not going to name all the titles. Mean
Mhm.
Streak had a rap in it. It was really early to have a Chicano rapper on a
I
record.
forget who the rapper was.
Yeah, he was a young guy, I recall. And then you guys did a version of the Jackson Five's "I Want You Back,"
That was a good version of it.
and Steve Salas did the vocal, and that really, really nice and got a lot of airplay. And then "Let It Be Me," you love that song, right? "Let It Be Me."
You're right, right. I love that. The Everly Brothers, yeah. Tierra's version.
Yeah, and then they had a song called "Margarita," which was written by Michael Sembello, who did that song Maniac."
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Maniac. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And a great song. I love the song, and it's a great recording. Steve Salas on lead vocal. And did you say that Michael Sembello was around for the sessions, or tell me about that?
Yeah, when we did Margarita, it was in San Fernando. It was right there by my mother-in-law's house, right in the corner, and that's where he lived. And that house used to belong to Seals and Crofts,
Hmm.
and he bought the house and put a studio in the garage in the back. Really nice studio, big board and everything, because he was a great songwriter and guitarist,
Oh
unbelievable
yeah,
singer.
great singer too.
And he would walk his dog. I mean, watching outside visiting my mother, and I go, "Hey, that's Michael Sembello." He was weightlifting back then. He's a big guy now. So, but that we recorded it there, the Margarita.
That's a great song. I love it. And then one of my favorites, "Mi Gente."
Oh yeah,
Now, I got to say this. So when I was into this album, that was one of my favorite tracks because it was like, super salsa and tight, and the singer who wound up being you was like this authentic salsero singer, I mean, you had all the inflections and the attitude and you know and the song was kind of like it's kind of like the salsa version of Surfing USA or something. They're rocking in that, or Chuck Berry. They're rocking in Boston, California, deep in the heart of Texas. You're naming all these different countries, right?
Right. And I did that because and with Hector Lavoe's version, he's naming, he was recorded live at Yankee Stadium, and he's got his own version too, studio version. But when I got into salsa music when I was a little Joe,
Mhm.
Fania to me was like the
Thing.
Motown epitome
Mhm.
of salsa music. It was danceable, catchy musicianship. But
Rhythmic.
Hector Lavoe, that song to me was like that's the one.
And did
That's
he name some countries too?
Yeah. What I did is I just looked in the dictionaries, like, okay, let me rhyme these countries. Uruguay, this band, this country. So I just started naming. I put everything together. So I made it my own. You know.
Fantastic. So anyway, I didn't find out it was you till like 20 years later. I think maybe 10
Last
years
night.
ago. Huh? Yeah, last night I
Last
found
night,
out.
yeah.
No, I did find out at some point, but I was shocked because I didn't even know you sang. But you
Yeah.
you sang it great.
Thank
And from what I heard from Rudy Salas, it was recorded live in the studio. Everybody playing together.
Yeah. And minus the vocals,
Right, just overdub the vocal later.
because of the bleeding of the mics.
Right. But the band
Everything
was
put it
just
live,
you
yeah.
could tell it was just the real thing.
I think Joey Guerra's on there too.
Yeah.
Joey Guerra.
Yeah, let's see.
Steve Palomir, Joey Guerra, myself, Rudy.
Yeah, he's listed on here. Yeah. So great album, and then they had a Spanish language version of "Let It Be Me," Déjame Ser.
Yeah, they have an English version of it
Yeah,
with,
"Let It Be Me," and then the Spanish version.
but at the end they do a little bit of Spanish,
Yeah,
which I just re-recorded that one, and I had Andy Vargas singing the duet with me from Santana
the duet on which song?
on Let It Be Me.
Well, that was you and somebody else.
No, no, no. I just re-recorded because I
Oh, you
heard.
re-recorded it, but on this record it was Stephen Rudy Salas.
Oh yeah, that was Stephen Rudy. Yeah, they
Um,
did Hammer. They did uh these all these great ballads, man. Their vocals to me, like as I mentioned earlier, they were the Everly Brothers of East LA, man.
yeah, man, perfect harmony.
Unbelievable harmonies.
And it's something special when it's brothers, the same DNA, the voices blend
Yeah,
even
they
better.
grew up together, just singing and playing.
Same
That's
DNA. Yeah, so this is a great album. New
Yeah, thank you.
Beginning,
I like that.
and you're on that.
Like I said, I don't have a copy of it. I didn't forgot about
I'll
it.
send you this. I'll send you the MP3s.
Yeah.
So were there any other highlights when you were playing with Tierra, like certain gigs or certain shows or some show that you were on the bill with somebody special or anything that comes?
Yeah, you know what? There was actually one that's really memorable when we went to Las Vegas,
Hmm.
and it was in the early late 80s, and Miami Sound Machine exploded with La Conga,
Yes.
right? So who did they get to open up for the group? They called Tierra.
Hmm.
And we had Coque Escovedo playing with us at the time. Unfortunately, Coque Escovedo, if you know who he is, actually his uncle,
Yeah.
Pete Escovedo's brother, but he had that formed that group Azteca.
Right.
So he moved to Southern California. He was looking around, and just moving, bouncing around with gigs and musicians, and he was with us. But with that was the one that was memorable with them getting to open up. It's a big, big. I forgot where we played too, man. It was big in there, like some arena. But you get to hang out backstage with them, and that to me that was great. That was one of the ones that I highly remember, playing with Tierra and going to Japan, of course.
Yeah.
Great.
And tragically, Steve and Rudy are no longer with us. They passed away in recent years. And what kind of relationship did you have with Steve and Rudy?
It was great. I mean, Steve, of course, would come in and out, more with Rudy. I never had any hiccups, never had any disagreements, no arguing, no yelling at each other. Highly respected, his position. And when I left the group to join War, this was like in the beginning of the year, 1990, or 91 or 90 something.
Hmm.
And there was discomfort in the group, and people was okay. Well, we were at a rehearsal, and they said, okay, well, some people are not happy. Who wants to leave? He goes all the way around. About half the band left, and I was the last guy. I said, I'm leaving too. He goes, what? And I go, yeah. So at that time, I was doing gigs with Tierra and War. But I told Rudy, hey man, I'll stick with you until.
Did you find somebody?
to find somebody. Yeah, and they found Danny Santiago, which is a great drummer. Great replacement. And he just, yeah, he was smooth. He felt right in, man. And that that was a departure where I never burned my bridges. You know what I mean? I always respect the position that you're at. Because if we have a problem with one guy, the leader,
Mhm.
right? We usually do. The leader has problems with 10 guys.
Oh, it's a headache.
It's a headache. So you gotta, you gotta understand that. So, like when Steve Follmer passed away, of course, went to the services, the bass player,
Mhm.
and Rudy was there, and of course, a lot of the other old band members. But I give props to Rudy all the time. I said, hey, if
Oh,
it wasn't for Rudy Salas, Tierra wouldn't gone to exist as far as it has.
well, that was an incredible thing because they got together, as I say, in 72, and all through the years when Rudy was alive, he always had a great band. I don't care who left, he'd have a new great lineup. It was always a good band, and he kept it together. And that's what, like you say, it's so hard because when you're dealing with 10 musicians or eight musicians, whatever, trying to herd them together and all the problems that might be happening. The fact that he kept that band great all through the years is remarkable. And like you
Yeah,
say, Steve was in and out because he was kind of a wild card, happy-go-lucky, fun guy. Oh, miss rehearsal, whatever, right?
yeah. He was special. Well, actually, let me back this up, man. The first time I went to the Tierra rehearsal, right?
Mhm.
In Covina, some other little place in the back somewhere in the industrial area. And set up my drums and ready to go, man. My old Ludwig's, man. I was so proud and everything. And next thing you know, Steve and Rudy started getting into it. And they had an argument. And Steve walking out, Rudy's yelling at Steve, throws his guitar at him, and next thing I'm sitting there going like, it's gonna break up before I even play one gig with them again. But it didn't happen, I mean, the band stayed together, but of course, because Rudy, Steve was like he was the menace, like Dennis the Menace,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
coming in and out, happy little guy, party guy, liked his weed, liked his beers, and nonchalant, the jokester.
Like the ladies.
Yeah, he's jokester.
Yeah,
But what
no.
an incredible talent, man.
Oh,
Steve,
great guy, very charismatic, lovable guy.
very smart guy too.
Oh yeah, went to Stanford for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was very smart. But yeah, those days, man, were precious to me, and it's don't want to go into deep what's going on now, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, right.
with David and but
Yeah.
I love the family, it's
Mhm.
part of my family, because I
Mhm.
know when the father was there, the grandfather, they lived behind his father's house
Mhm.
right by Lincoln Park.
Right.
And we just walked to the park and, we rehearsed in a little tiny room. David was like 12, 13 years old playing guitar, just sitting on the couch, just saying, hey, this little kid playing guitar. But it became to be a great producer, musician, a singer. But Tierra was great years for me, man. You really to be a part of the East LA, that kind of culture, that movement, and then working with other groups too. Once you start working with those groups, you get to know who now El Chicano, who they are. Now you get to be personal with these guys. I mean, you're opening up, hanging out in the back, and drinking the beers, and
And you've played with them a few times, obviously, right?
I was in El Chicano too for a minute with Bobby Espinosa,
Hmm.
and uh, and that's before Fred Sanchez came back.
Yeah.
This like in the late '80s. I was doing in the middle '80s. I was doing Tierra and El
Oh, I
Chicano.
see. Well, that time that I sat in with you and El Chicano when you were playing with him, it was what did we figure? It was Spotlight 29 Casino out here in Indio, June 11th, 2010. I was asked to come in and sing Brown Eyed Girl with the band because Fred Sanchez couldn't make the gig. So Jerry Salas asked me to come and sing harmony with him on it. And you were playing drums, and that was in 20, did I say 2010. So you would sub with them occasionally and later
Yeah,
you,
what's up with him? Yeah, because when Fred started forming the band again, putting when Bobby passed away, Bobby Espinosa, the original keyboard,
yeah,
he passed away. So Fred started coming back in the picture,
yeah.
and then he started putting calling the band back. He got Rita Regalado, of course, and Jim and what's his name? Jerry Salas.
Right.
And
Came back.
how she's lovely and all that stuff.
Right.
So, and it was him, and it was like four guys, Rudy, Bobby Espinosa, and Jerry Salas, and Rudy Regalado.
Right.
So that's a nice little
Yeah.
amount of guys for the band.
And then Rudy passed away.
Rudy passed away, and Regalado close to where Bobby did
Yeah.
at the same time. At that time, I had a group called Sal Rodriguez and the Pacoima All Stars.
Oh,
They're
okay.
playing at the bowling alley here in San Fernando. And I had Bruce Conti playing guitar from Tower Power.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I had Bobby Espinosa playing keyboards.
Okay.
And I had, what's his name? Hector Martinez playing bass. I forgot. That was it. A guitar and a percussionist and a sax player. Play at the bowling alley. So what Bobby would do when he had an El Chicano gig, he would just use my band. Bruce Conti would play guitar. And at that time, he had Rick Carrion on there too. It was
Right.
Rick
I remember that. Yeah.
and Bruce Conti, Tim Scott playing bass, incredible singer and bass player, Bobby Spinoza. And then you hire the percussionist, of course, the Puerto Rican guys, Papo Rodriguez or Tony Rosas playing congas, but incredible band. I mean, that was a good era, it was good musicians. And I would be singing and playing drums with El Chicano, so with that too. And then I would sub in too with Malo. Malo would call me to sub in with them. So there are times, sometimes it'll be two. I'll have a gig with Malo and War
And the same night, play with both
same
groups.
night. So I just got off, set up the War stuff. The drums are already there, so I played. Let's do the two. Jorge Santana was still around, and some of the cats from Malo. But just to be a part of that whole thing, man, is just I think nothing of it. But as I look back on it, I go, man, what. It's awesome. You know what I mean? I think nothing of it, but to be a part of it and not knowing what, the journey that you experience
The
and
history.
it's over now,
Yeah.
Most of our colleagues, our peers, man, are passing away. And I said, half of Tierra's gone now.
Oh, I know. I've been thinking about, when I think back of my generation of East LA musicians, seems like at least a third of them have passed, at least a third.
We just lost Tony,
Yeah, Tony. Banda.
Sunday, he was with Poncho for 30 plus
And his
years.
brother Ramon just passed away a few years ago too.
Yeah, Ramon, his brother, incredible musicians, man. But I known him way back there too, with in the 70s, when they had their band called Sabor, I think, and Poncho playing with them. He just got that gig with Cal Jader,
Right.
so he joined their band, and next thing you know, the rest is history. But yeah, it's sad, man, and we just got to live by the moment. You know what I
That's
mean?
all we got.
Embrace life, gratuity, gratitude. You know what I mean?
That's where I'm at too, man.
Yeah, but I'm glad I was able to be a part of that, and I'm still part of it somehow. Still doing the War thing, and never thought I'd be in the band War.
Right.
Every time I
That's
heard Still the Wine, I was going like, oh, I thought it was a Latin band from San Francisco.
With Eric Burden on lead vocal.
Yeah, and I looked at the album, I goes, hey, there's all black guys and a couple white dudes here, man. What's going on? And hearing that music and I'm going like, wow, But
So
we all got into the band. I'm going to tell you how I got into War.
right. I'll mention one more thing before we get into war is that I mentioned about when I played with you with El Chicano. Well, a year before, there was a Geo-Latin All-Stars. I don't know who organized it. Maybe you could tell me. But it was at the Indio out here near Palm Springs, the Indio Tamale Festival. They have it every year. They have a lot of major artists come in and play. Poncho Sanchez has been out here. Anyway, that year, it was a Geo-Latin All-Stars, and it was you on drums, Rudy Salas on guitar, Jerry Salas on vocal, Arcelio Garcia from Malo was there.
Wow.
I forget everybody in the band, but they were all from different bands.
Mhm.
And Jerry asked me to come up and sing a few songs. And I have that on video. It's on YouTube. And I'll put up a picture right now of
Yeah,
that.
I like to see that.
Oh, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link.
Thank you.
So we have it on, and then I'm going to post a photo of that event too. But that was cool. And I got to sing. That was
I think Rudy was the one putting that. Geo,
put it
I think
together.
that was George Aguilar's
Yeah.
name company, right?
Yeah.
That George.
Geo-Latin, that's right. That was his
So
company.
it was him and but Rudy Salas was the one that organized that group and put it together.
Hmm.
He had his version of his all-star band too. Some of us did too back then,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
those are fun,
that's a good memory.
Hmm.
So tell me the story of how you wound up in war.
I wound up in War is that we would do these shows with when I was with Tierra. We do shows with War, El Chicano, Tower Power, Malo, and a bunch of other groups, right? Some of the up and coming groups at the time. So, and then we do Lincoln Park. Remember the Lincoln Park
Yeah.
concerts out there? Yeah,
Hmm.
the free concerts, and you get to start knowing the guys. The band War. Everybody was there. Lee Oscar, Papa D's, of course, didn't have a bass player because
Hmm.
he's in the group anymore. And Charles Miller was out. He passed away. So they were playing at the Strand in Redondo Beach.
Hmm.
Remember they had the LA Weekly,
Yeah.
that newspaper,
Yeah.
stuff, and at the end they'll have what's going on around town. We didn't have internet back then, so that's how we found out who's playing. And so they were playing at the Strand, and I'm going like, oh man, I'm off that night because Papa D had passed away, the original conguero, the black guy, that heavy set guy playing congas.
Hmm.
So Papa D, and when I was open, we share, sharing the same stage. Sometimes he would just sit behind and just watch me play, you know, and because he loved the Latin music, with Tierra. And so they were playing at the Strand, and so I called the drummer up. He was Ron Hammond at the time. So I called Ron and said, "Hey Ron, this is me, Sal." And he goes, "Yeah, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, you guys are playing at the Strand, man. I'm off that night, off this weekend." I go, "Do you mind if I just bring my percussion and just play with the band?" I go, "I don't want to get paid. I'm not asking for money. I just want to play. I'm selling myself, and prostituting myself." So he goes, "Hey man, okay, let me call you back, all right?" So he calls me back about 5, 10 minutes later, 5 minutes, something like that. And he goes, "Yeah, bring your stuff." The guy says, "Yeah, come on down, bring your stuff." So I set up my stuff and played at the Strand, and it's a real small club, really nice club, and people could sit behind you all around. So they called me the next day. He goes, "Hey man, we're going to go to Reno for a week. You want to come and join us?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, yeah." So I did the gig with them. I went there for a week in Reno. Lee Oscar was still in the band. And Lonnie was kicking left bass. They didn't have a bass player, but he was singing and lead piano and kicking left bass. And then I was playing percussion and had Ron Hammond playing drum. And Howard Scott, the original guitar player,
Okay.
and Papa D had just passed away. They didn't have a percussionist. And that's why I called them up and I said, "Hey, you guys playing at the Strand, man. Can I come jam with you guys?" And I
Yeah.
just for free, and it paid off. They called me the next day, said they liked what they heard, and they asked me if I want to come to Reno. Then they kept asking me to come and play with them. I'm going like, am I in the band or they never say, "Hey, you're
I never
in."
said it.
Yeah.
36 years later, you're
To
still in the
this
band.
day, they still haven't told me I'm in
Still
yet.
haven't told you yet, right?
Yeah, 34 years later. But that's when the gigs started getting too many gigs and stuff. And I said, "Well, okay, I think I'm in the band now." So I told Rudy, and I bowed out gracefully. We never had that problem with Rudy.
Hmm.
And he would call me to sub in quite a bit because they went through drummers, even percussionists. So I would come and play percussion with him, with Tierra, subbing in. But that's how I got the gig with War, playing at the Strand and asked him if I could just come and jam. And it worked. And been in the band ever since. But now I'm playing drums because when we started doing the album Peace Sign, right? That's when Lee Oscar quit the band. He had a problem with management and the deal that they were making, so he quit the band. And then they brought in Harold Brown, which is the original drummer that played on all that great stuff, right?
Hmm.
They called him back to do the record. I was playing percussion. So they had two drummers, Harold Brown and Ron Hammond. So we would do different Skywalker. We'd go over there, we go over here, and these great studios. Um, and Skywalker Ranch. I don't know if it's Steve, from
George Lucas.
George Lucas Studio, man, way up there, man, unbelievable. But we started doing this record, and Harold Brown came back for a minute, and then they had two drummers. Then they had me playing percussion. So then Harold Brown didn't last long, maybe about a year, maybe he came back, and he left. So then the drummer, they had something happened with Ron Hammond and the leader and Ron and Lonnie Jordan, where he had to make a change. And so he called me up one day. Lonnie says, "Hey Sal, you want to play drums for the band?" And we're like, what happened? What's going on with Ron Hammond?" He goes, "Well, I got to make a change." Oh, okay, let me call you back. So I called Ron Hammond up. Said, "Ron," because I don't like to do that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
I called him up and say, "Hey, bro, Lonnie just called me, man. He says he wants me to play drums. What's going on?" He goes, "Sal, that's a personal thing, man. Had nothing to do with whatever the personal thing happened." He goes, "But take the gig." He goes, "Because if you don't take it,
somebody
somebody else
else will.
will." And
Yeah.
I go, "Okay, well, I just thought I'd let you know because I'm not behind any of this, but if you give me your blessings, okay."
So
And
what would you say, what year would that have been that you became the full-time drummer?
that was like in the early 90s, 91, 92. Ron Hammond, he used to had a band called Ball and Jack,
Hmm.
Seattle.
Hmm.
They had two great albums out, you know what I mean? And they were like a Oso Bisa or those kind of groups,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
big horns with a bunch of percussion. So Luther Rabb was a bass player, and that's when they brought Luther Rabb in with War, the bass player. And Luther Rabb was with Santana too.
Okay.
But when he left the group, they brought me into the drums, and then they started revolving different percussionists, recruiting different percussionists. So I've been in the band ever since, and it's still going strong, man. It's unbelievable how the people, it's the music, the songs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great
So
songs.
how many albums have you been on yourself since you joined? Um,
I mean, not
made
too
many?
much. I mean, War really they do a
Yeah,
lot of catalog stuff,
they had so many hits in the past, they
Got
don't
so
really.
many hits, like nobody wants to hear nothing new.
Yeah,
We tried that with Peace Sign. We played a couple of new songs. People were like,
yeah, right.
and
Yeah.
then we played dun 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 dun. Why can't we be friends? All the music and
Everybody goes to the bathroom while the new songs are
yeah,
playing.
like a bass solo. You know what
Yeah,
I
right.
mean?
Go to the
It's
restroom.
yeah, it's a bass solo. Let's go to the bathroom or a drum solo. But
Right.
yeah, that was interesting.
So what are some of the highlights of your years with the war in terms of who you've been in concert with, who you got to meet?
Yeah, some of these groups, man, it's unbelievable, man, how you become friends with them now. Especially with Grand Funk.
Oh,
Mark
nice.
Farner. Because to me, they were like my Beatles. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm,
Um, when of course nobody's going to replace the Beatles, but that's how important they were to me.
mhm.
And so we opened up for. They were playing at Paso Robles, and no, the first time I met Mark Farner, we were doing in Canada with War and Eric Burden and all these great bands, in Canada. And I was going up the ramp. And I look back and I see Mark Farner in a U-Haul truck, inside the U-Haul truck, practicing his guitar. And I go, "That's Mark Farner." So I went back downstairs. Luckily, I had my little Snapchat camera
Uh-huh.
for once. I said, "Mark Farner, I can't believe it, man. You know, huge super fan. Is it cool to take a picture? Yeah, he's great. Come on." So I still have that picture to the day.
Mhm.
And we hadn't done shows, in quite a bit with because Grand Funk was disbanded at that time. Mark Farner was doing a solo thing. So when Grand Funk got back together with Mark Farner, we started doing shows with Grand Funk,
Uh,
with Don, Mel, and Mark. So we became friends. Hey, I used to hang out there in the dressing room, I wasn't hang out with the War guys. I want to hang out with Grand Funk. I talk about all the albums, I knew everybody, all the songs, and so we became good friends. And then he we were playing at Paso Robles. Man, this must have been about 30 years ago, 30, 25 something years ago. They were playing there, and I rushed to the main stage where they're at. And I saw Mark Farner, and I said, "Hey, Mark, it's me, Sal." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I remember." I go, here's my number. You ever come to LA? Please call me. You need anything, a ride, or whatever it is, just call me. I don't think nothing of it. And about a year, two go by. Next thing I get a phone call. Brrr, I pick the phone. Hey, Sal. I go, yeah, who's this? It's Mark. I go, Mark? Mark who? Mark Farner. And I'm going like, yeah, Mark, what's happening? I'm just elated, man. I go like,
Yeah,
what? It's like Paul McCartney calling me up, you know?
right, right, right.
He goes, hey man, we're recording over here, man, at Crystal Studios, man, over here with you guys are recording out here. Why don't you come down? He goes, man, Mark Don's with us and Mal, we got the original lineup with us. I go, I'm there, bro. I got my albums, my t-shirts, everything that I could for them to sign. This big groupie. We became friends ever since, got to hang out with them in the studio. We didn't record or anything with them, but we just hanging out.
He's
But
probably heard you play, right, with War on some of the
oh
times
yeah,
you.
yeah. And of course, I bought the Grand Funk T-shirts and all stuff. So we would do shows with them, and the one of the last shows, they were in Sioux City, Iowa, when Mark Farner was going to leave the band the second time around. They booted him out of the band. The guy that wrote 90% of the stuff
And
and
sang
sang.
lead.
Yeah, it's incredible. That's another story. But And then I was playing, and then I knew Grand Funk was there, and I had my Grand Funk, my closer to home T-shirt, with the album cover, because I bought a Paso Robles, and I looked there and I saw three of them in the side, just going like this, just checking out the van, going like this. I looked at them and said, I'm wearing a T-shirt, going, yeah. But Grand Funk was one of them, of course. Tower Power, that's another one where Emilio and those guys are my dear friends, David Garibaldi. Whoever thought I'd be close to David Garibaldi is away, and how much he's changed my life in drumming.
Mm.
You know, between him and Danny Serafine and Bobby Colombi from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and of course I'm mentioning a whole bunch of the drummers, Harvey Mason, Billy Cobham, you name them. But these guys getting to know who they are now and friends and opening up for the Doobie Brothers, you know what I mean? And going on tour with the Doobie Brothers and opening up for them and riding on the same plane with them, you know what I mean? I go, man, yeah, this is cool. I never thought this would happen. Yeah, kid from Pacoima, man, Tijuana, man, raised in Tijuana over here. But now we know each other as friends, you know, and um, and also Chicago, Chicago's huge in my book, you know. But we did a couple shows with Chicago, but not too many. I wish we would do more. Of course, Earth, Wind, and Fire,
Oh, yeah.
and one of the great memorable ones too was Santana. We did quite a few of them before Supernatural. We opened up for him over here in LA. It's called the Duck Stadium or something, or
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Anaheim Pond.
Yeah, yeah, the pond. Now,
He was
what
walking
was your
around.
relationship with Carlos? Did you get to know him a little bit?
It was cool because he was just a normal guy. No security, no before Supernatural.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd walk around by himself, you know what I mean? And you stop there and talk to him, hey Carlos, what's up, man? Because I know he wasn't born in Tijuana, but that's where he started his
Yeah,
career,
yeah, exactly.
you know. So I would say, hey, Viva Tijuana, As a matter of fact, my uncle, the one that got inspired me, he was from Tijuana and he was the same age as Carlos. So they had a band back then. My uncle was playing bass.
With Carlos?
Yeah, the Carlos, but they had a band called Los Strangers.
Oh,
And he told me about that. And I seen something like in the documentary, you see some of the pictures, go, that's my uncle right there. So I knew that he was telling the truth.
and I just heard a couple of days ago that Javier Batiste just passed away, the guy who inspired Santana. He was a very popular Tijuana musician back then. You've
Yeah,
heard of him?
yeah. Yeah, of course,
He
yeah.
just passed away,
Oh, I didn't know that,
yeah,
man.
about 3 days ago.
Yeah, I read his memoir, Santana, man. What an incredible journey. He needs
Yeah,
a few more other books too, because he didn't get into all the albums, but
yeah.
incredible stuff that, yeah, but opening up for all these groups and getting to know who they are and the musicians too behind all these great bands and getting to know them, saying, hey, Sal, what's up? You can, I'm a groupie photo guy. I like taking pictures, socializing. Hey, what's up? How you doing, man? Great. Admiring drummers, musicians, complimenting them, you know.
I just remember we got to talk about Wild Rodriguez. So
Yeah.
when I interviewed Lonnie Jordan for my podcast, I had an audio podcast for years, and I interviewed Lonnie, and we talked about that song. And I told him I really like that song, and he goes, "Yeah." Turns out he wrote it about you. It was about you. It's called Wild Rodriguez, and I don't remember all the lyrics, but the idea
Son
was
of a
what?
gun.
What was
Yeah.
it? Let's say.
He was a son of a gun, something I can't remember.
I just remember there was a line, something like, ladies, roll up the sidewalks, take your children, take your daughters home. Wild Rodriguez coming to town, or something like that. Like,
I guess I was a big influence on some of his songwriting, right?
yeah, yeah. But it's a great record, and it's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
Peace Sign's a cool record, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, another quick story that I remember back in the days, back in the early 80s.
Hmm.
And I did a show with Willie G,
Uh-huh.
the Maynards at the convention center.
Hmm.
And that's when that song My Sharona was out, remember?
The knack. Hmm.
My Sharona. So I had Jeff Lee and Greg, the Black brothers, playing bass and guitar
Hmm.
and to do the Midnighter stuff, right? So here we are, a bunch of lowriders and cars, car shows, and they had a keg of beer on the outside of the stage. And that's when I said, start drinking, you know. And then back then we used to do a thing, we used to destroy instruments like Keith Moon, The Who, with Death Row, that band. At the very end, we just knock over everything over, it's just part of the punk stuff, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
That's how crazy we were. So I told the guys, I said, hey man, I said, when Willie G leaves the stage, let's bust into My Sharona. And they go like, yeah, let's do it. And then so after Willie G's finished, he's going downstairs and went, because he's a lowriders and people are really laid back.
They love the oldies and all
They
that.
love the oldies, but when we busted out with that My Sharona, that thing erupted.
Oh, wow.
And people were going crazy, And Willie G was on the side stage going like what the, He never called me since. But and then we destroyed our stuff. He got me in the head like I knocked the drums over, the guitar amps and everything. I mean, we just destroyed the stage. But that was one of my memorable. But my first time working with Willie G.
Wow.
He's called me back before. I guess his son's playing drums now.
Mhm.
I work with him. Occasionally he'll call me back to do the midnight stuff. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm not that way anymore.
Right.
You know, you're young, dumb, full of fun. You know what I mean? You just do things, stupid things. But that was one memorable thing that they would
Yeah.
do, Willie G. And also working with Joe Bataan. Joe Bataan was another guy that came in from LA, I mean from Jersey, and I formed a band, helped form a band, start playing around here. Like
Oh, oh.
Montebello and the Swap Me, a couple of other Santa Fe Springs, and you know, and
And
but
Joe Bataan is still performing, and he's what, pushing 90 or something? He's
yeah,
really
he's 80 something, 85 now, I think. Yeah,
still performing.
he's still performing, and but getting back to working with all these groups, man, and it's awesome, man. It's a beautiful thing. And hopefully I keep doing it for as long as I can, man. Lonnie sounds great. He's the only OG left that's able to use the name, you know. Um, that he just turned 76.
Okay.
Man, his voice is still amazing, you know. And he's playing better than ever. He's all totally raw vegan now. He's a little too skinny for me, but got to eat some food sometimes. But he still sounds great. He still holds those notes. It's amazing how he still carries himself. And you hear guys that are not even as like in their 60s, and can't hit those notes.
Oh, yeah.
Lonnie, man, it's amazing how he still sounds great. And he's gonna keep going. I think he's got another 15 years in him, man, to be honest with you.
Hope so. Hope so.
At least a good 10. Come on, 10
Yeah.
years. But I think he's fine. But it's an honor, man, to be working with all these groups and still performing and playing. Whoever thought that me as a young kid coming from Tijuana and working all these little clubs. And when I was in high school too, I worked with a conjunto group, my Nino. We play at the bars in Van Nuys Boulevard 7 nights a week. And then on Sundays, I was still in high school. On Sundays, I'll play the tardeada, the afternoon, from 4 to 8, then from 8 to 1 o'clock or something like that. play 7 nights a week, and I was making $40 every time I would play. But grinding my teeth and just busting those chops and just experiencing those different elements as a young kid, what makes things happen, how to deal with people, and you learn from watching people, how do they react, and but it's a trip, man, and I'm still playing, and I'm back walking with the Lord now. I got a good 12, 15 years now, coming back. I'm not just what I used to be, so fanatics preaching the street corners, like I used to, but I have a personal relationship with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I'm in a program. I do the AA, so I got a good solid 14 years now. Yeah, in my recovery. So to me, everybody's journey is different, and I don't judge people. Hey, you do that, that's you. You know what I mean? I'm not here to judge you. I'm just going, it's my journey, but I'm enjoying it, and I do speak at different places, men's homes, recovery places, and I share my testimony. The way I do it is very unique. Is I bring my bongos and I bring my speaker, Bluetooth speaker, and my microphone. I play war music and I grab onto them. They get their attention and they love it. Then I share a little my journey and
Good
my
idea to do it that way.
how I came to be, how I got there, and how to get out of it, and how to maintain my walk. You know what I mean? So that helps me. It's good therapy for me. And it helps me because I get my anxieties too. You know what I mean? And but not like it used to be. But this thing is journey called life, man. It's not easy,
Not easy for anybody.
anybody,
We all
regardless.
go through the ups and downs.
But Mark, can you imagine our lives without music?
Almost not worth living.
I couldn't never imagine it, what it would be like.
And for everybody, even people that are not musicians, what would life be without music for them to enjoy?
And the thing that we enjoy, it's not like a job.
No.
We do it because we love it.
Yeah, I feel like I beat the system because I got to do music my whole life and make a living from it. That's pretty rare.
Well, I hope someday we get to record something together because
Yeah, that would be great, man.
man. I
Yeah.
just call everybody else, but you don't call that guy Sal, man. What's up?
Hey, it'll happen. It'll happen. But you mind, let's talk about that time I jammed with you in somewhere in the valley. Was a place called Casa Torres. What town was that in?
Oh yeah, this is Silmar.
Okay, it was 2010. I forgot if I think you invited me. You must have invited me, but I drove all the way from here
Yeah,
all the way up
yeah, it
there
was far. Yeah, for you it's far.
the
Yeah.
desert. But anyway, it was great. And I sat in on a few songs. I just remember doing a Green River by Creedence Clearwater. I played and sang that. And it was a good groove. I think that might have been, let's see. Well, it was the same year we did the Spotlight 29. So that's probably why we were in contact. But that was fun. And a long drive home. I remember I did smoke a bit of herb on the way home and I was really high. But, I learned to be a really good driver, at least on pot. But
It's
I
like,
just remember
like,
it's like,
hey, off ramps over here. No, but that was a really good group, man. I had a lot of great musicians coming in there. Rudy Salas would come in, sit in. The guys from, of course, El Chicano would come in, and the guys from Santana, Wilfredo Reyes Jr. would come in, sit in.
and you do it like once a week when you were in town kind of
Once
deal?
a week. It was a Wednesday. I put in a Wednesday because I know it's coming back from
Okay.
here, right in the middle of the week.
Hmm.
Man, we had that place jamming, man. It was
Yeah.
like, what an incredible group, man. We had, you know, we had our repertoire. We played Afro-Cuban music. We played Beatles. And there's three lead singers, four lead singers in the band. I mean, singers. The harmonies, man, it's like unbelievable. We did everything. Conjunto,
Yeah.
Ramon Ayala stuff, and it's incredible. But no, all things come to an end. We did that. I did that for 8 years, but it had
8 years. Wow.
a true musicians coming in. Bercy,
Oh,
Bercy,
see.
Chicano, she.
But that's the thing about East LA and Chicano musicians is we can play everything from, heavy metal to jazz to punk to salsa. It's all open to us and we can do anything really, most of
But I
us.
didn't tell you either. I was in a heavy metal band called Mad Whip Thunder. When I was with Tierra, my
Mhm.
local friends, two Chicano guys, they had a group called Mad Whip Thunder. With the spandex and the spikes and all that
Mhm.
stuff, right? So I go. that's challenging for me. I was like in my early 30s. I go, I want to try that. You know, the speed metal, the double bass,
Oh my
you know?
God.
And I tried that for a while, but there was no money in that thing. Like you played Gazzari's and all these places, you
Oh, they
paid,
wouldn't pay
you
you.
got to sell tickets and all that stuff. Go, I
Uh,
that man. We recorded, but it never went anywhere. The band disbanded,
yeah.
but it was fun. It
Yeah.
was,
I played at Gazzari's in 1968. I had a band called, was it the Men from Sound? It's either that or 1984. But we played there for 6 nights and we got $250 for the whole band for the whole week. You know, it's like $50 a piece for 6 nights. Yeah, because it was like you're playing at Gazzar's, you're on the strip. You know, we can,
right,
and it got worse because, like you were saying, starting in, I don't know if it was the 90s, you have to pay to play those places, or you
right.
got
You had
to
to
bring in
sell.
you got to sell tickets,
Yes,
bring in
sir.
a certain number of people.
That's how you got paid by the tickets,
Yeah,
percentage of the tickets.
yeah,
Yeah, I just couldn't do that, you know.
no. Let's talk about some of these other people you played with. I see here that you played with the Duke Ellington
Oh, the
band.
Duke Ellington Orchestra, yeah.
About that.
I got to tour with them. I was actually playing percussion with them. They came to play the Hollywood Bowl, and Bruce Conti was the guitar player who's with me.
Did he bring you in?
Yeah, he recommended me, and so I got a call, and they were going to play at the Playboy Jazz Festival and at the Hollywood Bowl,
Mhm.
right? And oh yeah, man, I'll come down. I was still with War playing at the time, so I did the show with them and did a couple of things there and another club in San Diego. Forgot what it was. And so that was a great experience. So I did that one time, did the rehearsal, and I didn't hear nothing of it. I didn't hear the bad about the band or anything, right? I mean, they didn't call me back. They're New Yorker guys. So I get a phone call and then the drummer calls me up and says, "Hey man, you want to come play percussion with us? We got some shows, tours lined up in Europe, Japan, and all that stuff." I go, yeah, I'd like to do that, you know. So one of my first shows working with him was at Carnegie Hall,
Mm.
and it was Ella Fitzgerald's 75th birthday
Oh
party.
my God.
But you had Ashford and Simpson, you had the Jazz Messengers, all these great musicians, you know. And here I am at Carnegie Hall, man. I'm going like, wow. I'm young still back then, man. I'm hugging the building, you know. It's like, great, man. This is fantastic.
Was Ella there and did she sing?
No, she was because she wasn't feeling well, but
Okay.
they honored her there.
Okay.
You know, she's
Mhm.
75. She's going through health issues and
Yeah.
stuff. She didn't make it, so she didn't come up on stage. Tony Bennett, those kind of people, you get to share the same stage with them, and it's great, man, you know. And that was a great experience with Mercer Ellington. It was Mercer that his Duke Ellington's son. He played trumpet at the band at the time, but when Duke Ellington died, Mercer took over and kept the band going to this day. He died at the same age, like 74, as his dad.
Oh, wow.
But we went all over Europe.
Nice.
Played at the Rome at the Roman Coliseum, and I mean, we played some prestigious places out there, man. You know, and in Japan, we did a 3-week tour in Japan. We played like 20 days in 3 weeks, one show after another. You know, Japan, all these great theaters, and
During that time, War didn't need you, or did they have to put a sub in?
they had a sub. There was one gig that they had here and there and stuff,
Mhm.
you know. But I'm not gonna turn down 3 weeks of
Yeah.
stuff for one show. You know what I mean? But they didn't like it. But hey, it happens. But I did that with Mercer. We toured South America, Brazil, and,
Nice.
and got to work with all these great jazz players, man. It's just anytime you tell them that you with the with Duke Ellington Orchestra, we had our own jackets, they made jackets for us. They gave us a great carpet, man. It's like, oh, Duke Ellington, yeah, come on in.
I heard the Duke Ellington Orchestra with Duke Ellington when I was a teenager. I went to the Coconut Grove,
Oh yeah.
and I think it might have been, I was probably a senior in high school, and I got to see the Duke Ellington Orchestra with Duke Ellington and Ella Fitzgerald singing. It's
Oh wow.
crazy,
Oh man,
crazy.
see. Yeah, that musicianship, man, is like it's yeah, it's not around anymore.
No.
Miles, all the
Oh, yeah.
great,
Chick
you know.
Corea and all these people are dying.
Oh man, Chick Corea, and you get there's a handful. When I went to New York, I just got back from New York. We did the Macy's parade with War at the Thanksgiving, and we had 2 nights off. What do we do? Blue Note. Who's there?
Mm,
John Schofield.
mm.
Go. So we went to go see John Schofield, and at the very end, I said hi to him and stuff, and he had his guitar and he was taking his amp out, right? I go, John, I go, let me help you with your amp, man. He goes, no, no, that's okay. And I go, no, man, I want to help you. You shouldn't be carrying your amp. And I picked it up. It was a heavy amplifier. He was taking it out to his car, and he was across the street down there. And so I helped him. I was walking New York City, going to John Schofield's amp.
Not everyone has roadies, huh?
And yeah, so and then I'm going like the next night, okay, so let's go back to see John Schofield again. All right. So now they let us they he got us in for free because they knew we were the band war. They sat us right in the front. John Schofield right there, right in the front. And it was a trip, man, because those kind of musicians, man, that it's a handful of them left.
Oh, yeah.
They're
We were talking about the baked potato earlier. I used to go see, Larry Carlton. I'm sure you used to do that too.
yeah, yeah.
Abe Laboriel and
Gabriel Boreal,
Porcaro and all these people.
California and all of them back then. Yeah, and it's amazing. That little tiny place,
Oh,
it's iconic landmark, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's been there. But yeah, so with the Mercer with Duke Ellington, that was a great experience too, touring with them and working all these great places, Hollywood Bowl and oh, this one memorable another we talk about memories is when we had a reunion with Eric Burden
Mm,
15 years ago. So where did they book it? At the Royal Albert Hall.
no way.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I'm going like Royal Albert Hall. Wow. From
Did you
Carnegie Hall.
did you hug that building? You should have hugged that one too.
I did. I hugged the toilet, everything, man. No, but when I get there, I'm inside there because we had to do like a week full of rehearsal with Eric Burden, right? And then we get to Europe, we rehearse another day or two over there. And so when I walked in the building, I'm going like, okay, where was Jimi Hendrix standing? I'm standing on my back. He's probably standing right here. I kissed the ground, right? And it's just like sanctuary to me. The Beatles,
Cream played there. Eric
everybody, man.
Burden,
Who
Beatles.
didn't play there?
Yeah.
Like unbelievable. So that was another great, memorable experience.
Wow.
Doing the Animals catalog and doing war stuff because he did war. He recorded with war. Like
Oh, yeah. Spill the wine.
Back Road, Spill the Wine, all these
Yeah.
great songs. And we did some animal stuff too. House of the Rising Sun, all that.
Hey, in '95, I had the pleasure of playing with him one night at the Fantasy Springs Casino out here. It was Eric Burden. It was a benefit for the Oklahoma City bombing thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Timothy McVeigh was a
Yeah,
Unabomber.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I
what
remember that.
happened was it was Eric Burden, Cesar Rosas, or Los Lobos, and me
Wow.
acoustically backing up Eric Burden and a harmonica player, Hurricane Ramon. And the four of us, we played Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, CC Rider, and House of the Rising Sun. And Eric, this was '95, he was still pretty damn young, sang his ass off. I'll send you that video too if you want to see it.
That was around the same time we went to
Was that around the same
no,
time?
no, no. When we went to Roy Albert Hall, that was about 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah, this was '95.
Yeah,
But
this
I'll send you the links if you want, man. It's pretty
yeah,
cool.
please do, man.
But he was, I mean, I always knew he was great. I saw him when I was a kid perform with the Animals, and I knew he was great. But being on stage with him, and he's a true blues singer, right? He never sings the same thing twice the same way, and he's just all soul and energy, and just blew my mind. It was quite
Well, listen to
a
Spill the Wine. That's like
oh
poetry, rap poetry,
oh
right?
Yeah.
I was once strolling one very hot summer day.
Right. Oh, yeah.
He's telling the story.
And Lonnie, I don't know if Lonnie ever told you the story, but that whole song happened by accident, right? Did you hear that? That they
Oh,
were,
he spilled the wine. Yeah.
yeah, they were jamming and somebody spilled wine on the board.
He said Lonnie spilled the wine.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he drank more than he spilled.
Oh, is that what it was?
Probably.
But I think the bottle tipped over and somebody said, spill the wine. And then they just started making the song up on the spot. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
I love that kind of story.
Oh, but back then, they had the budgets too. With Jerry Goldstein was the
Mhm.
mastermind behind getting Eric
Oh,
and
you hooked him up?
the Oscar because they were from Danish, the Oscar, from Europe. So him and when the Animals broke up, he wanted to find a blues band or
Mhm.
old band.
Yeah.
Comes to LA, Jerry hooked them up. They were called the Creators back then, backing up Deacon Jones. He's a football player. They're
I
playing
remember the Rams.
it was the Rams. They're playing all these plush places, because of Deacon Jones.
Mhm.
So they came and he jammed with the band and stuff, and the rest is history, man.
Great
Jerry got the deal
combination.
together, and there were budgets back then. They let the tape roll, the 24-inch tape. That one finished. The other one's ready to go. They just rolled it.
Keep it rolling.
The lowrider is actually the length of a 24-inch tape.
Really?
Yeah, it's
They
got
just cut a little section out.
Jerry Goldstein is a master of splicing things up because
Oh.
there were jam sessions in there. They didn't come up there with arrangement. Oh, here's your music. There were jam sessions.
I
Oh,
heard that Miles Davis, it shocked me, like one of his classic albums. I don't know if it was Kind of Blue or one of his real classics or Bitches Brew. It's like he'd
yeah.
come in and they'd start jamming and they would constantly roll the tape, and the producer just cut it. Oh, here's a song. Here's a song. They weren't even recorded as songs.
That's the way they did it, man, and that's the way Ward did it too. Because they had me come back to do a Spanish version of Lowrider. Todos mis amigos conocen el Lowrider. So I transcribed the lyrics to it,
Who
right?
sang it?
I did.
You sang it?
Yeah. It's a
Was it
Spanish
released?
version.
Was it
Yeah,
released?
it's called War Latina, something Latino, War Latina. It's this whole album that's dedicated to kind of more of the ones that have more Latin oriented songs.
What was the title of it in Spanish? The song Lowrider. What
Oh,
did you call it?
it was just called Lowrider, but
Lowrider.
I
Oh,
changed the lyrics.
lyrics. Okay.
Todos mis amigos conocen el lowrider. Lowrider, maneja despacito. So I translate the lyrics. But then
Nice.
when I get in the studio, they're going like, uh, okay, they're playing the tape, right? And
Mhm.
they're going like, and I'm going like, the song kept going and going, right? I go, now it's got a bridge. Now it's got this. And I go, oh man, this song sucks. But the way Jerry did it, he cut and spliced all the
Wow.
essential parts on it and made a masterpiece out of it. And that's the most
Whoa.
iconic lowrider song ever
Yeah, exactly.
for lowriders or even war. Because the minute we play, bum, 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 I could tell anybody in the airport, so you don't know war. You heard that band song. You hear that song, lowrider. Oh, that's war. I thought that was George Lopez. Yeah. But that the way Jerry did it, man, he was a master. And that was a 2-inch tape cutting, right?
Oh, yeah.
You had to be precise.
Oh, and you had to cut it at an angle with a razor blade and all that stuff.
Hey, I'm glad I never did that, because I would have messed things up. But that's how Eric Burden and Lee Oscar, they did a couple of albums. Eric declares war. They played blues and stuff like that. They really didn't go much further, but when they did spill the wine, that had the groove, that little Latin thing that Lonnie was
Mm,
doing. And
totally.
then that lady that was singing, I forgot her name. She was mimicking something in there. Oh, azul, azul, algo loco, loco, right? And every time they play that, I go, man, trying to, what's she saying? Because we didn't hear no Spanish on radio. There was
So
nothing.
that was in the background of
It
his
was in the
version.
background of
Oh,
Spill
I
the
never
Wine.
noticed that. Never noticed
Yeah,
that.
so listen to it when you get back to it, and I thought it was a black band. I mean, Latin band from San Francisco, because Santana and all those
Oh,
bands
it's
come from
totally Latin groove. Totally.
and I saw the record and I said, man, this is like one all black guys and two white dudes, man. What's up? Eric Burden. And I never bought I never really bought a war album in my life, you know. I knew the songs on the radio. It was great songs.
A lot of hits.
Other Wine, of course, All Day Music was a huge one, you
Why Can't
know.
We Be Friends?
Wanna Be Friends.
Cisco Kid.
Rosa Guerrero was like the number two now album of the year, you know, of that era, you know. And but man, once after Eric Burden left, you know, Jerry continued getting these record deals and getting the budgets, and they came out with masterpieces, man. You know, they when I listen to it now, because I wasn't a War fan back then, and I listen and go, wow, man, these guys were writing. It wasn't your typical, you know, 2/5/4,
Right,
whatever
right.
your structure, you know, your progressions and stuff, man. They were experimenting.
Is Jerry Goldstein still around?
He owns everything.
But he's still alive. He's still around.
Yeah, he's in his 80s now.
I met him a few years ago because I interviewed Lonnie for another thing. I interviewed him for my podcast, but before that, I interviewed him for this project I'm working on, A Great Day in East LA, which I told you about, which you're part of. You got interviewed for it too. I talked to Pierre. We said, yeah, we interviewed Sal too. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was in
Over by Alvera Street.
downtown, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I interviewed Lonnie for that too, and Jerry came with him to check out what was going on, you know. So,
Yeah, of course.
so I met him then.
Yeah, Jerry, man, he's got his hands on a lot of things, man. You know, he's written a lot of great songs for people. I Want Candy, all kinds of
Oh, I didn't know that.
McCoy's, remember?
Oh, yeah.
With the Hang on Snoopy, that's Jerry.
Hang on, Sloopy. Yeah.
And him as Sloopy, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he was part of that, McCoy's. And he was one of the first guys to get signed too in Motown, you know,
Oh,
back in the days.
I didn't know
But
that.
yeah, he became a producer and stuff, and you know, and publishing stuff. Yeah,
Did all right.
he's the one that put War together. I mean, if it wasn't for Jerry, you know, Warner wouldn't be happening. You know, so
Is he also their manager?
sorry.
Is he the manager too?
Well, we have management, but Jerry owns it. He's the one that makes the final
Mhm.
calls for anything. So, you know, anything's got to go through him through if you're going to, you know, he's got the final say. We got agents, we got management, we got agents. So, but he looks at the numbers, say, no, I need more. You know, that's the way it goes. But, you know, not
Yeah,
that it's split evenly. Hello.
right, right, right.
Nice. But, you know, yeah, I'm just fortunate, man, that I'm still doing what I love to do, Mark, man, and play music, meeting great people as yourself, man, you know, and your father too. What a icon, you know. I met your dad once and at the train station in East LA when little Joe was playing there. And
Mhm.
your dad was playing guitar. He had his group. He was playing guitar, and I took a picture with your father. And just got to meet him once, you know. I
What
didn't.
what decade was that in, do you know?
Oh, that was man, it could have been about 25, maybe uh
25 years ago?
30, maybe.
30 years ago? Yeah. Probably he passed away in 2005. So
Yeah,
amazing he's been gone. What's that, 19 years?
but
Yeah.
I got the photo, and it's a good little shot, you know what I mean?
Cool.
And but working with little Joe, and then you know that's where I got to meet your father. You know,
Mhm.
I got to see him perform. You know, very nice gentleman and
Well, thank you.
icon, man,
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah. There was a couple other people you mentioned you worked with, and that is Chuck Negron of Three Dog Night.
Oh yeah, yeah, Chick Negron, man, and if you don't know who Chuck Negron, people out there, of course, he's one of the singers from Three Dog Night. He's the one with the you know,
And he sang most of the leads, really, of the
oh,
hits.
yeah. Eli's coming. And
Yeah.
one is the loneliest number, remember?
Oh, great. Love that.
But when I started doing shows, I started playing percussion with them. And when I started doing shows with them, it reminded me of like War. They had all these hits. Oh my God, you celebrate and you know, all these great songs, you know.
Mama told me not to come.
Yeah.
I love that
What's
one.
the whiskey in your water, sugar
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
tea? It's all these crazy questions you're asking me.
Yeah, open up the window, sucker. Let me take my breath away. Sucker.
Yeah, that was great, man. But man, what a great time too working with Chuck, man, because you know, it was now like when we go do these shows, we play all these hits, but the audience predominantly white. It was just a more of a hippie white crowd, come and see us,
Mhm.
But but that didn't last long because, I came back with war again. They wanted me full time. That's when Lonnie called me back to play drums this time.
Well, that's right. And what about Tom Jones? You did some gigs with him?
Tom Jones, it was a short period too, what I mean? He had a Welsh band.
Hmm.
We did Europe with Tom Jones, but we had the residency in Vegas too. We played at the MGM at the Celebrity Theater. We did like 2 weeks at a time.
What decade was that?
That was in the early 90s.
Okay.
Early 90s. So at that time I was like as subbing in here, doing all that, but it got too much after a while. You know what I mean? So war was more consistent. I just say, you know what? I'm just gonna stay here. If I keep subbing out, subbing over there, you know what I mean? And what if I miss a plane here or
Right.
call me back at the gig or they'll find,
Stressful. Get stressful, huh?
yeah, it gets stressful, and but I still get to do that. So about when war's not playing, I still do things around town or they call me in, I'll sub in for different people or, put events on, but it it's cool, man. I really enjoy working with other groups as well. But
Yeah.
Chuck Brown was great, man, and that was a great period too in my life and playing all these great songs that you grew up listening to,
And what about the Iron Butterfly?
Iron Butterfly, man, that was another one that yeah, I never toured with them, but we rehearsed our butts off, man. It was Doug, right? They talk about the keyboard player, Eric Braun, the guitar player, and Lee Dorman was the bass player.
Doug Engel.
Doug Ingle, yeah. But I didn't even think of that time taking pictures. I just thought nothing of it, you know. But I was messed up. I should at least taken some photos there with all these guys, you know.
But
But
he,
we rehearsed, but we never toured. The tour fell through.
mm,
Something happened in Europe. We were ready to go. Something happened but at least I got to experience that with these guys.
right. Because of technology, right? Back in the 60s, 70s, right? This was, pre-internet, pre-digital, pre-cell phone, and so yeah. So like say the whole East LA scene of the 60s, there's almost no film or video on it, on any bands, unless they were on TV, there's no video.
Yeah, at least they were on Shindig or
Yeah.
whatever,
Nowadays, every band has millions of feet of footage of their groups and
and their own home.
photographs because we all have our video camera on our phone and our photograph, so you can always take a photo. We didn't take pictures of shit,
I
Back
know,
then.
man. But I did kind of like had those little, remember the little one, the light bulb? You take one, you had the four shots in there.
Oh yeah,
Those,
yeah.
those are crazy, man. And or the little ones with the those, you develop it right there on the spot.
Polaroids.
Polaroid cameras, man. And but going back to all this music, man, all these great players, and you get to know who they are, the camaraderie, especially the East LA scene. You know what I mean? Getting to know these guys and getting their respect too, you know what I mean? Vice versa, you know, earning that respect, and knowing how to just be grateful, even when they're not that good of a musicians, don't rag on them, encourage them, hey man, sounded great, man, hey, beautiful man, keep doing what you're doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I like to do and just encourage people and being able to still play music and at my age now, I'm 68 now. So, where does time go, man? Right,
I
Mark?
know. I can't believe how fast it went.
Playing as when I thought somebody in the 30s were old, I mean,
Yeah,
when I joined Little Joe, I was like 18. They were like 33, and I thought they were old.
yeah, yeah,
Oh man, how old are you? 33, 36. Oh,
yeah.
dang. Oh, he's up there.
I always say nobody told us that life would go this fast,
Yeah,
It seemed like it seemed like one day I was 30, then I was a senior citizen. Like, wait a minute,
yeah, now you get the
how'd that
discount
happen?
at Danny's.
Yeah, yeah, and I got a discount at Denny's. How'd
Senior
that
citizen.
happen so
Yeah.
fast? Yeah.
But it's been a great journey, man. I just so like I said, man, and still doing it. I have a bunch of stuff that I recorded that I have never released with Bobby Espinosa on there,
Mhm.
Bruce Conti, with
Nice.
Lydia Prince from Cold Blood, guys from Tower Power, Rudy Galalo's on there. I mean, I David Torres is on there. Uh, Tony Banda's on a lot of it, and we just lost him. And but I got to send you some of this music because it's really good stuff. I got Joe Bataan on there,
Love
you
to
know.
hear it.
Yeah, and I did recording in a great studio, but I continue recording, then I never release anything,
Yeah.
Why am I like that?
I got a lot of old recordings that were never really officially released where I've got Rudy Regalado and some of the same people you're talking about, and they've never really been out, some of them.
hmm Like this one, I just last year I got awarded for the Tejano drumming, right? At the Tejano, Texas,
Hall of Fame or something.
something like that, a museum or something, right? At Tejano Awards. And so I flew down there and then I had did this recording, Lo Mucho Que Te Quiero by
Oh yeah, Renee, yeah.
Angelito, right?
Right.
So I did the recordings here. I got a little studio in my house. I recorded and stuff. And so the guy that picked me up and he goes, hey, Renee lives out here in San Yosuna. I go, really? So he picked me up from the airport and he goes, yeah, you want to go say hi to him? I go, yeah, let's go. And I had my phone with a little speaker, Bluetooth speaker with these recordings. Knocked on his door, man. He opens the door and he goes like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He goes, because he made his friend. He goes, "Come on in." So we're playing the music with him. So we started singing. I got this on film. We're singing in his living room. We're both doing harmonies to Lo Mucho Que Te Quiero and Angelito.
Mhm.
So when we got the awards and all that stuff for the Tejano music, for Tejano drumming, I rented a studio the next day and I had Renee come in and sing those two songs with me. So it's
Nice.
on the recordings.
I'd like to hear that.
Renee, and I did the productions here at my house, and they came out really good. But stuff like that just gems, man. I don't know why that I just don't release them. I'm thinking to myself, who wants to hear? I was like,
Yeah.
who's going to listen to these?
At the very least, you can put them on YouTube, get them out in the world.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's been recorded so many times too, but not with Renee, and myself on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Iconic,
Yeah,
but
what a nice guy, man. I was actually a house guest. Did you go? He has a little guest house in the back, little guest room. Yeah, I stayed there for like 4 or 5 days.
I never stayed at his house. But
Yeah,
he did mention that
yeah,
he's got a house back there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's really a gracious and nice
Really,
guy.
really nice man. We did the boat cruise with him before went to go see him at his house.
Oh,
The Latin cruise,
oh yeah, yeah.
now everybody plays I call it East LA on a boat.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's so fun, man. The last time we were on there was Los Lobos, Ramon Ayala, of course, you had Tierra, you had a bunch of groups, man. There was a Motley and Poncho and all these bands. But Renee was on that too. And he was sitting in the cafeteria, the buffet, by himself. Nobody was around him, and him and his wife. And I told my wife, "Look, man, that's Renee." She goes, "Who's Renee?" I go, "Man, you don't understand." I go, "I gotta go talk to him." She goes, "Don't leave him alone. He's an old man. You don't know nobody bothering him." I go, "No, man, I gotta go talk to him." So I went out to start talking to him, and his wife was complaining that they had a crappy room. Like my wife was complaining they had a crappy room. So I went down there and I bumped it up, right?
Mhm.
Free. So I talked to him and she goes, "Hey, Renee," she goes, "Yeah, the room." She goes, "No, we're okay, honey." I go, "No, no. You're Renee, man. You should have a great room. Come on, come with me." So I took him down there, and the guy that was organizing the boat, and he was there at the counter. I said, "Hey, man, this is Renee. He's got a terrible room, man. Can you get?" "Yeah, no problem. I'll bump
Wow,
him up."
wow,
His
cool.
wife was like, "Yeah, they gave him a balcony, a nice whole thing, right?" So when I knocked on his door, he remembered me from that time. That's why I guess
Yeah,
he was cool saying, "Hey, I'll sing on your." He didn't ask for any money.
right, right. Did
But
you know how he wound up being Renee? Do you know the story?
not the
Well,
original.
well, it was funny. When I interviewed him, he told me that the original Renee were two guys actually named Renee, and he's Renee Ornelas, and the other guy I forgot his last name. And then after a few years, Renee left, so he hired another guy whose name was not Renee. He goes, "You're now the new Renee." So now he had a second Renee, but he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really Renee. And
Yeah.
then a couple of years went by, and he had to replace another one. And he got sick of replacing Renee, so he said, "Screw it, I'll be Renee, and I'll be solo." And that's how it happened. I don't
As a
know.
matter of fact, when I recorded that La Música Te Quiero Angelito
Yeah.
in Texas a couple years ago, we went to the house where one of the Renees had a studio.
One of the other Renees?
Yeah. And he's the one that recorded me in the studio with the real Renee. It's something, man. It's just like, wow, what a small world.
Yeah.
I'm talking on the phone with Sonny Osuna,
Yeah.
I go, man, Sonny still sounds good,
Yeah.
Renee, Little Joe still sounds great. But my first super dance was with Sonny Osuna. This is like 1975, 74, and to San Antonio, and it was Sonny Osuna. I still have the poster to it.
Mm.
It's a digital poster, but it's got Jimmy Edwards, Ruben Ramos, man, but to see those guys, they're still there. They're
Oh,
still
still performing. Yeah, I interviewed Sonny Osuna at his house in San Antonio as well on that same trip, and I've got that on my podcast page. But so I got their stories too, so it's pretty cool. Those two guys are old Tejano legends, right?
You know a gentleman named Ramon Hernandez? He lives in San Jose.
Yes, yes,
He's a book writer.
yes, yes.
Biographies. He's doing that. He did one with Little Joe. He used to be a photographer.
Oh, yeah. I stayed at his house. As a matter of fact, the
Yeah,
first time I went to, he hooked me up with Renee in the first place. But
yeah, he did that. It's
he's
just all
like the San Antonio music historian.
right,
He
right,
knows everybody.
right.
And he's like, at least when I stayed with him was about 5, 6 years ago, he was already 75 and he looked like he was 45, right?
Isn't
He's in
he?
great shape and he looks youthful, black hair,
Yeah.
look dyed. And he's like probably 80 now. But
Well,
he's,
he still
yeah.
looks the same. He still looks the same. But that yeah, I stayed at his house too. He picked me up, picked me up at the airport. He
Yeah,
took to Renee's house. He drove me to the museum.
he did the same thing for me. Yeah.
Man,
Great guy.
but he's doing a book on it. He's finishing up on Renee and Sonny's book now too.
Did you see at his house? He's got all those filing cabinets,
Oh yeah.
row of filing cabinets full of, posters and flyers and
Yeah, he was a photographer for Selena before,
yeah.
he ever made it big. She was still a kid, and going on Johnny Canales show and
Hmm.
these great memories. And when he was touring with Julio Iglesias, Celia Cruz, and all these great stories he's got, man. It's just,
Knows everybody.
he does, man.
Texas.
But that Tejano scene, man, coming back to that was second to none, man. That was a great experience. I'll call it the Onda Tejana,
Right.
man.
Well, that's what's so cool about Chicanos in the Southwest, right? There's the LA scene with East LA. There's the Bay Area, Latino rock and
Right?
Chicano. And then you got the Texas. They're all different and unique,
Different.
but they're all, still
What I
Chicano.
tripped about that, and when I first got there and I listened to the radio, it was a bilingual radio. Ahora se presenta Little Joe. It's going to be great. Bring your family. Para la palomilla se va a estar. And I'm going like, what? They're speaking in
English.
Spanglish. I go, this is. I was ask somebody to buy me a beer, man. It's like, well, how old are you? 18. You can buy beers. 18 is a limit. Back then it was.
Mhm.
I go, oh man, you should have told me that, man. Well, so I had no problem walking in, just buying a beer, and it's crazy. But we used to drive when Little Joe in Temple, Texas, was nobody there during the weekdays. So me and Sal Aguilera would drive all the way to Houston because we met some of those other musicians great over there. Party like crazy, right? Drive back the same night, 3.5 hours on the road. Just to go party, man. In Dallas, we do the same thing. Drive all the way to Dallas. But
Pretty
there was
cool.
nothing happening there. But I owe a lot to Joe too, Little Joe, man, who takes me under his wing. And you know, I remember one thing I remember about Joe too is when we were playing in Corpus Christi, and it was a storm. We were playing at a Coliseum or something, right? And we were in the room. The promoter comes to Little Joe's room. He says, "Hey, Joe, it's only about 100 people out there, man." He goes, "If you want to cancel," he goes, "I understand." And he goes, "No." He goes, "Those people paid money to come see me, and I'm going to give them a show."
And he kicked ass, right?
And he kicked butt, man. He gave it all, man. Took his shirt off, through the chest thing, and I go, that's a true artist right there, man.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter how many people are there. You paid, you're gonna get a show.
That's right.
And I always remember that because sometimes you hear musicians, there's nobody here, they're complaining.
Yeah.
You say, how do you get a musician to complain? You get him a gig, right?
Right.
But just like, hey, show up, man. You were called. If you don't want to be here, don't leave the house. Stay home.
Yeah.
You don't want to bring on your negativity at the gig. Nothing's perfect, man. Just,
Mhm.
things happen, especially when we do these gigs around town, I mean, always something, but that was a great learning experience. But coming back together, man, it's awesome, man. I want to thank you, Mark, too, man, for calling me. And I know we talked about this for quite a while, what I
Mhm.
mean, but you're a fantastic musician and a great person, man. And, I don't know you as well as some of the East LA guys, but being who you are and your father, you have a great mark in the history, and this in this journey called soul music, Chicano music, being a true artist as you are, man. Great singer, good guitar player. And it's an honor to know you and to be on your show and your podcast. And can't thank you enough, man. I felt connection, and hopefully we get to record some music together, you know what I mean?
I'll play live too. That sounds great, man. Thank you. And
And
thanks for
yeah.
doing the show, man. And I'll see you soon and I'll let you know when this is up.
All right, thank you, man. Meanwhile, God bless you, man. Peace.
Take care and keep rocking, man.
Thank you, brother.
See you.